Chapter 22, From Upper Middle to Lower Deplorable. My dream HR interview. What have you done in 4 years besides making sure your three kids don't die? I got my doctorate in pharmacology. HR replies, from what school? The University of Phoenix. My thesis proved unequivocally that Adderall gives you an artificial feeling of real-life profitable accomplishment, like any printed-off degree from the University of Phoenix. Reality is, I exist mostly thanks to the generosity of others because my punchlines haven't paid enough dividends yet. Stay-at-home comedian dads like myself are sheltered bums until we're able to capitalize off our comedy genius already, so we could start giving back with generous, unjaded hearts to those who stuck with us, begrudgingly or not. Once I was in the main reading room at the New York Public Library working on a blog. Anthony Bourdain rips my frozen lunch apart. Pretty sure I'd been fired at that point because I recall thinking to myself, you've got nothing else better to do. Back then I was living in Astoria, Queens. It's impossible to feel cool living in Queens. Even if you have a decked out rooftop overlooking the starlit Manhattan skyline, it taunts your broke ass from afar like an immovable feast of out of reach splendor. Plenty of my role models hail from Queens, like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley from Kiss, Doug Ellen, creator of Entourage, the bald guy from Anthrax, and our 45th president, Donald Trump. Where you come from plays a huge influence on your desire to rise above your ho-hum surroundings, especially when you grew up in Queens. At some point, all the names mentioned above decided mediocre wasn't enough for them. All these men decided they wanted to be big time, and they worked their asses off to get there. Groucho Marx, who raised his family in Riverdale in the Bronx, once said, when you do comedy, you have to feel you're better than the people you are making laugh for a living. I'm paraphrasing Groucho here, but my takeaway here has always been that if you don't believe in your own brand of specialness, nobody else will. I was born in Forest Hills, Queens, and lived there for 3 years before my parents moved to the more snuggle-soft confines of Westchester County, a well-off upper-middle-class suburb, 30 minutes north of Manhattan, or the big city, as my children love to call it. My firstborn, Matilda Singing Rose Cornbooth, spent her second night on Earth in her old one-bedroom apartment in Astoria, New York. I've been fired from my new biz development job 1 month before my wedding. Timing hasn't always been my forte. On the bright side, I ended up repurposing the Anthony Bourdain Rips My Frozen Lunch Apart blog into a piece of food fiction and got it published in Fire and Knives, which won Best Food Magazine in England in 2012. I need some more recent wins to boast about, I know. All acknowledgments of my occasionally hilarious forms of writing still haven't materialized into any sort of steady residual form of loot sack for me and my family yet. Getting paid for VH1 Classic, for writing a gazillion music video intro host reads, for WWE great Chris Jericho in 4 days flat, to perform with Excitable, Boy Gusto was a heavy metal high I'll cherish forever. I blew almost half my check on a Fasanabli leather bomber jacket. It was my fuck you hack jacket for anyone who ever tried to make me feel like an ineffectual jerk-off for thinking I had what it took to write for TV in the first place one day. For the first time in my life, I felt like I'd earned my keep from sticking to my guns and working my ass off to get paid after all those years, being another schmuck in a headset, doing new business development, cold calling my brains out. It was hard to feel I was being paid for anything more than just being another disposable hunk of cold calling monkey meat. Nothing more, nothing less. A glamorized, indentured servant at best. Wyatt Earp said it best. No man ever became rich as a salaryman. So I've thrown myself into finishing my parenting book, Controlling My Kids a Comedy, a love story. Because most comedian autobiographies suck because either A, they save their best material for their stand-up act. I don't have this luxury being a stay-at-home father of 3 with a wife who works nights with no grandparents in sight. Also B, stand-up comedians aren't very good writing engaging, laugh-out-loud generating prose. As George Lopez said, most comedians would have jumped at the shot to do a residency in Vegas back when Rodney Dangerfield was offered it. Instead, Rodney chose to buy Dangerfield's in Manhattan as his own personal stand-up comedy workspace so he could be closer to home with his family. I saw a doc on Babe Ruth on HBO. He was raised in an orphanage. One of the reasons they said he was so good with kids was because he knew what it felt like to feel abandoned. What comedian or aspiring writer can relate to this sentiment in terms of their unrelenting desire to earn love from strangers for a living? And if they become parents, becoming hell-bent on making sure their kids never feel like they're taken for granted. Yesterday, I contemplated a different chapter blog title called Q&A Parenting Style. I said to my daughter, Matilda, start asking me questions, whatever you want. She asked, Daddy, what's your favorite nut? I point to my lower midsection and say, with over-the-top silliness, these nuts. My daughter replied, you eat your own nuts? She started laughing out loud on the spot. Shock waves of infinite, tingly delight pierced me whole. It was a beautiful, hilarious father-daughter moment, which doesn't translate to dollars and cents, at least not yet. At that moment, I didn't feel like a downward deplorable, but a comedy shooting star on the rise, because my genius comedy star daughter stems from daddy's doodle daddier tree trunk, and great comedic minds think alike.